All right. Welcome to Exposing Sierra Leone, your weekly dive into the issues, news, and people shaping Sierra Leone and the diaspora. Each week, join us as we engage with professionals, journalists, and various guests, or sometimes just us, to discuss enlightening topics that are meant to explore ways to propel our country forward. We'll have in-depth discussions where we uncover the stories that matter most. In today's episode, we are going to discuss obesity in Sierra Leone. But before we do, let's do some quick introductions. I'll go first. My name is Joe Hatagwa. I am the founder of Authentic African. I just spent 4 years living in West Africa, a little over 2 years in Ghana and a little over a year and change in Sierra Leone. So about 4 years. And with Authentic African, my goal is to bridge the gap between those living on the continent and those living in the diaspora to help people move, visit, buy real estate, and invest on the continent of Africa. So that's my goal, and that's my role. Turn it over to you.
That's my goal in that. Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, guys? My name is Admire. I am the founder of the Sierra Leoneans Killing It platform. Basically, we promote Sierra Leoneans who are killing it positively in our community on that platform. I'm also a licensed braider located in Houston, Texas. So if you need braids done, classes, all of that good stuff, I'm the best for it in the city. And yeah, that's it.
Nice. And so make sure that if you guys haven't already, make sure you after this live stream is over, head over to either of the pages. So you're heading over to Authentic African on IG, all across the place, and you want to follow, subscribe, etc. And the same thing with Sierra Leoneans Killing It across everywhere. Tamika says, "I've never seen a fat person in Sierra Leone. Just think, women." All right. Okay, Tamika. So Tamika is speaking to something we spoke about in the previous hour. And then Tamika's also asking, did you ever live over in Sierra? How did you live over in Sierra Leone? How did I live? It's a hard way to express that in a quick 2 sentences, just so we don't get off topic. But um, I did live there for a year. And half of the year, I rented an apartment with a good friend of mine, and the other half of the year, I lived on my own property. All right, cool. So we're gonna get into today's topic. So you know, earlier, just a little earlier, we went live on Instagram, and with when we went live on Instagram, we had a special guest with us, Dr. Troy Massa. And so Troy is not able to join us for this session. So what we are going to do is we're going to play some clips from the conversation with Troy and react and respond to them. And we want to get your thoughts on them as the general population watching. But before I do get into all the clips, let's start with just an introduction to Troy. So we're going to play this introduction, let him explain who he is and what he does, and then we'll get into it. The audience can know why you're here and who you are and why we should be listening to what you have to say today.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I am Sierra Leonean. I'm based in the States. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but my background's actually in health and wellness. So I'm a doctor of natural medicine with also a background in international public health sciences. During the Ebola outbreak, I was still in school, but during that time, I was able to create a nonprofit organization that created medical stockpiles in the northeastern region of Salon. And they still are using those medical equipment today, which is funny. And that's actually pretty much what really pushed me forward with my health career and as well as for the organization. So yeah.
Nice. And I'm glad to hear you've already been doing some philanthropic things on the continent. That's awesome. We'll have to talk to you about that separately. So today's topic. So as I said, so today's topic is obviously about obesity, and that was Troy. So Troy gave a little bit of an intro into who he is and what he does and why we had him on. And so we went through a wide range of topics. We talked about, gut health. We talked about foods to eat and what not to eat. We talked about what's causing weight gain for those who are from Sierra Leone or West Africa in general and moving to the States. And then we also talked talked about what foods to eat and what foods not to eat. We also talked about portion control as well. And so there seems to be some more comments. Okay, so Tamika's saying she's ready to go to Sierra Leone. All right, Tamika, I definitely say you should go for sure. I'm with it. I did it for a year. I definitely recommend traveling as much as possible. Don't move just yet. Definitely go as often as possible and get a feel for what it's like on the ground before you make the full-time move. With that being said, let's just get into the next clip. So the next clip is going to be about what's causing weight gain. So one of the things that we went over in the previous live stream, which I didn't hear, there was some stats around the growth in obesity that's happening. Sierra Leone in general, maybe I should give this background. Sierra Leone in general is a country that does not have as big of an issue with obesity as maybe some of our neighboring countries. However, that does become an issue when people do move to the United States. And so this clip talks about that. But some of the other things that we should keep in mind is that although we are centering this conversation around obesity, you can kind of replace that word with overall health. And if you think about it that way, then this conversation applies to any and everyone out there. And it's not just about obesity in general, but about all things pertaining to health. Shout out to Admire's drink on the table, though. Looks good.
Yeah, everything's good. I'm on live on YouTube, but thank you.
So, really quickly, cheers to you. For those of you who are watching, it's dinner time, and it's happy hour somewhere. And so I will say this. So we did say we were addressing the rising issue of obesity in the Sierra Leone diaspora. As I mentioned, while Sierra Leone itself is relatively low obesity rates, many Sierra Leoneans abroad face a different reality, with lifestyle changes and dietary habits contributing to a significant rise in obesity. So we'll discuss the health risks associated with this trend, including all the different issues that we hear. And so that's what we'll talk about today. I do want to get to this quick clip on what is causing weight gain in the diaspora.
Because of censorship, but
Sure.
We can say that in America or the Western world, we have a lot of things what we call additives. So additives are basically chemicals that would help with taste, how it smells, and then also preserving it. So when we're back home in Salon or anywhere, basically that's not in the States or some places in Europe, food that is made the same day, like the full bread, you can't eat that the next day. You can eat it, but you will start seeing things. You will start seeing mold. You will start seeing the natural process of what foods are supposed to do. They're supposed to live and they're supposed to die, right? They're supposed to decay over time. But for instance, in the States, we have so many additives and preservatives that we can if you freeze something, you probably can freeze it for over a year. That bread that you're talking about, some people freeze those things for a year. And there's certain things that we really should not be eating over a year. Almost everything, as long as it's not like dried herbs and things like that. But what was your question? Was your question more of
what's
how do we
in it that's causing the weight gain?
Yeah, so it's the additives and the preservatives. It's basically what we call chemicals. Think about chemicals. If you have spinach, should you be having spinach with all of these other pesticides and chemicals in it? Or can you literally just give me the spinach or the greens from the farm? Let me wash it myself and deal with it myself. That's what we're not getting in the Western world. And, it deals with money, and it also deals with how long people can hold on to things. Because in the Western world, we're not able, we can, I'm not going to say we're not able, but we have more sedentary lifestyles, and we don't want to be in the farm, and we don't want to deal with agriculture, which I would love.
All right, so on that clip, I just want to address some of the things that he said. So he mentioned additives, he mentioned preservatives, right? These things are all in the foods to make them last longer. Sometimes they give it color, sometimes they give it flavor, sometimes they give it taste. And all of these things are contributing to some of the dis-ease and challenges that people are having with weight control and weight gain. So, I want to speak to that because my own personal experience, and I'd love for you to talk about it, is, I mentioned this in the previous live stream. I was living on the continent for just about 4 years. And when I moved back, within literally 1 month, I gained 15 pounds. And so everyone is clear. I am vegan, I am plant based. And so I do watch what I eat. I try to minimize my salt intake, no refined sugars, no soda. I drink mostly water, alkaline water. I drink about 3 of these or 4 of these a day. So that's what most of my intake is. But I still gained a ton of weight. And I was and prior to this particular clip, what I was talking about was the fact that I would buy full bread in Sierra Leone. And when I would buy it, I would just eat it the same day, right? I didn't keep it for a week because, as he mentioned, it would start to decay and mold and all that
Right.
kind of stuff. And so I would keep it for just like a day. So I consumed pretty much everything I ate almost the same day, or I would freeze food to eat within the week. So I did all my meal prep for the week, twice a week, because I had a housekeeper both in Sierra Leone and prior to that in Ghana, who made my food for me. So I had that privilege. Living here now, I have to make food a little bit quicker, and so that means it's a little bit more unhealthy. And so I can tell you just from my own personal experience that 15 pounds of weight gain, it is a definite change in diet, and it has a lot to do with what's in the food. So I don't know if you were aware of this or you knew about it, or if you have any other thoughts, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Admire, on the whole idea of the preservatives and everything that has everything to do with the weight gain.
Um, I did to an extent. Like I know because I watch a lot of documentaries, like What the Health, and that's how I
Hmm.
became pescatarian at one point for like 7 years, because I watched What the Health on Netflix and other documentaries, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're literally showing us what they do to the food here in the States. So if I'm seeing it, I gotta make a change. And so I did know of some of the stuff. Like I do know like that foods here are more toxic compared to outside of here. So that's definitely, I agree with him. He's right.
Yeah.
And then even him talking about like portion control, that's also something I started doing as well this year. And then eating past a certain time, like after 6 or 7, I can't eat. That's it. So I agree with him for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And so Tamika's saying, of course, the food is fresh and organic there. The food is cooked daily. There's almost no additives there. Yes, generally, except for when they put Maggie, etc., which was a conversation that was had in the previous call, but I don't have a clip for you on that. Um, Tamika also says there's no rat race having to eat on the run. You actually sit and eat. Yeah, good point. Good point. All good points.
Right.
So Tamika must have recently been to Salon and has the thoughts and ideas. Okay, so that was what was causing weight gain. Now I want to talk about portion control. So there was a conversation a bit about portion control. So I'll put that up on the screen. That's about a minute and 24 seconds. So I'll put that up, and then I'll take us down so you're not distracted by the two of us, and you can actually watch the clip. So here we go.
Yeah, yeah,
Someone
yeah.
that I
Of
know about.
course. So, I mean, in regard to like fufu, swallow, or all of those things, it depends on how much. Portion control is really important. But if you ever find somebody who says you can lose weight by only taking by a calorie deficiency, basically cutting back on what you're eating only, that's false. Because there's a lot of things that are tied into weight gain. It may not even be due to fat, due to what you're eating. It may also be your environment that you're in. Some people can become obese because of the environment they're in. So in the Western world, we have things that are called endocrine disruptors that mess around with your hormones. We have things that are we have environments that have a lot of radiation that also gets held in your fat, and your body's putting on so much weight because it's trying to protect you from getting all of that radiation. So it really depends. But for, let me say, for the Salon or traditional African diet, it's okay, but portion control is very important. And also, how are you making those starch or the fufus, the plantain fufu? Are you making it from out of the box? Or are you making it
From
from you're
scratch.
getting the fufu? Right. and you're making it yourself.
Right.
That's the biggest difference. Cutting down on processed foods, and for those who may not know what processed foods
So I cut that a bit short. The clip is cut a bit short, but what he's basically saying is that anything that comes in a box, right, is pretty much processed food, right? And so ideally, if you make it fresh, then you should be fine. Um, so to that point, I try as little as possible to eat food that comes out of boxes. It's difficult, especially in the States, and especially if someone like me who does my own cooking, and which means I don't cook, which means I eat out every day. Like I'm ordering food. I don't eat out, but I order food every day. So that's a problem because of course it's pre-made and you can't control what they put in those foods. But for me, in terms of convenience and just in terms of I let other people do what they do best. I can cook, but I choose not to. I'm not passionate about it. So it does cause me to have to make a quick order. And sometimes what I'm ordering doesn't always have the best long-term impact on my health or my weight gain. Um, what about you? I mean, what are your thoughts on the whole portion control thing that he was mentioning?
I think I mentioned earlier, I do like the portion control thing. I started it this year and I do see a difference. Um, because eating a lot, and then I think that has to do with like listening to your body as well, because I started doing that a lot, like listening to my body and what my body wants. So sometimes I don't eat 3 times a day. Sometimes I eat once or twice. It just depends. I don't want to eat out of boredom or just eat because the food is there. So I try to listen to my body. If my body is hungry, then I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna eat the times they told us or the times we are known to eat: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I definitely agree with the portion control, because we don't need to eat a big portion. A big portion doesn't mean that, I don't know. It's just, no, it's just overeating at this point. So I agree with that. Portion control for sure. It's hard, but you
Yes.
can do it. You can do anything you put your mind to.
Agreed. Wrong way. This is where I'm gonna be. Okay, yeah. So Tamika says I've been there several times to Sierra Leone. My husband is from there. I always lose weight while there. Even the rice is different. So that is a common sentiment for people when they go to Sierra Leone. And so one of the things I mentioned in the previous hour that people may not have gotten a chance to hear is, Sierra Leone, the food is considered organic because there are no fertilizers or insecticides being sprayed on the foods today that are being produced in Sierra Leone. We don't know if that will change, but as of right now, that is the case. And it really is because of the cost associated with that. And so that actually benefits us, those who are eating food there. And you just feel different when you eat the fresh food. It's just different. When I eat fruit here, it doesn't feel fresh. It rarely is.
Yeah, that's why I
And
don't
it's
even.
made to be able to last longer, right? No, you were gonna say that's why you.
Oh, oh, sorry. Yeah, that's why I don't eat
No, it's
fruits
good.
here either, because like it tastes different. It doesn't taste. It tastes weird. I just, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, this is one of the challenges, right? It has a very different flavor profile. So we talked about portion control. We talked about what is causing the weight gain. I do want to jump into gut health. This was something that Troy's practice is focused on. And so I had a question for him about what does he mean by gut health? What is gut health? And also, we talked about, sorry, and Myers eating, but we talked about bowel movements. When you go to the doctor, they ask you, when was the last time you had a BM? How often do you have them, right? They ask you these questions because a lot of that has to do with your overall health. So we're going to jump into this. Let's hear what Troy has to say, and then we'll have some reactions on the other side. Health. Maybe let's just start with gut health,
hmm
and then we can lead to the whole bowel movement thing. But what by your definition is gut health, and how do we ensure that we maintain it?
Yes. So at my wellness center, I focus more on gut health. Like if you're not starting there, we're not talking about activity. So gut health to me means it's an elimination pathway. So when you're eliminating things, it's so let's say you're eating chicken So it has to come out several ways. It's either going to come out as poop, or it's going to come out through your pores because it's going to be smelling, or maybe you get acne, or maybe you get boils or certain things like that. Those are elimination pathways. If your elimination pathways are not clear, your bowel movements are not going to work properly, and you're going to start seeing what they call dis-ease or conditions on your face or on your body and things like that. So with gut health, that means being cognizant of what are you eating. If you're eating rice, it's okay to eat rice, but what type of rice are you eating? Really, wild rice is the best type of rice, or country rice, if you're back home, is the best rice. Not Chinese rice or white rice is not the best. If you really want that rice thing, but you know you need to stay away from it because it is not helping your bowel movements or your gut health, go with fonio. We have fonio or funde we have back home. Those sort of things clump up and it's more fibrous. So when I talk about gut health, I talk about fiber. I talk about your activity level, because if you are not active at all, your body is not going to move the waste away. Um,
Mm.
as well as retraining your brain, because your gut is connected to your brain. If you're not, you're going to be craving certain things, but it's really your body is saying, oh, I want that chocolate, I want that. But why do you want the chocolate? It's because you're malnourished due to something. Maybe you don't have the maybe you're missing out on certain minerals or supplements in your diet, which a lot of us are. So that's what I focus on at my wellness center. I hope that answers the question, guys.
Yeah, it was a two-part question. So the other part is on the bowel movements, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think I know it's kind of a strange thing to talk about, but everyone does it, you know,
Yeah.
newsflash, right? So, but this is an important thing because when you go to the doctor or you go to any medical professional, one of the questions they'll ask you is about that, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you have any kind of issues ailing you, they'll ask you this question, and there's a reason why they ask this question, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I know it's a weird thing to talk about and people get weirded out by it, but I thought we should talk about it here because it is a part of this discussion. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I've heard all kinds of different things, and most people land on, from what I understand, you let me know if this is true, is everybody has their own schedule. Even if they're healthiest, it's going to be their own version of a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that might be 3 times a day, some people that might be once a day or once every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I understand the case to be true, and you let me know if this is true, is if you see a change in it one way or another, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but this it's never okay to be like once a week for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, can we talk a little bit about what is not okay, and how can you be monitoring this to ensure that you know, you're maintaining the best potential health that you could have?
Yeah.
That was a long question, but I hope
No,
that
I get
it's
it. The
clear.
first thing is, a lot of us, we talk about, oh, I'm bloating. So
Mm,
that deals with um sensitivities to foods. So
mm,
if you're bloating after you're eating cassava leaf, you need to actually think about it, like what is in cassava leaf that is making me
mm,
bloat. I may
mm,
have a food sensitivity, and that's why, my poop is not coming out, or it feels so hard when I'm eating. Some people, Salon food, we have a lot of granite. We have a lot of like peanut pastes and things like that in our food, which are cool, but not all of us can actually digest those sort of things. So you need to think about that. Really, when I'm saying be cognizant of what you're eating, it doesn't mean quit it. It means to know what's in your food, because you may need to substitute or take it out in order to get yourself better. Now, with the what you're saying, the frequency of bowel movements, I agree with you. It depends on the person, but really, if we have cleared pathways, you really should be going at least once a day, at the least once a day. But there are a lot of times when people say, I have not went for several days, and that is what's really alarming. That means you need to focus on getting that bowel movement in order, because going once a week, that's not good, because you're
right.
holding on to all that waste throughout the week. And I'm not going to say I guarantee you, but most of the time when you're doing that, that's when you have a lot of issues with inflammation. You may be very irritable or angry with people because you're literally full of shit. That's what we call it.
Right.
So you need to really find ways to eliminate those pathways. So you can do those with herbs. You can do those. I would not recommend getting like laxatives, because that is over the counter laxatives, because those ones, what they do those are temporary fixes. And I think the reason why you guys have me on here is to find fixes that you could do throughout your life and change your lifestyle. So temporary fixes are good for right then and there, but it's not something that you'll be doing for the rest of your life. At least I wouldn't think you will want to do that. So with that, um, you should also focus on water intake.
All right, so that was a long clip, and I apologize for the lengthy clip, but I thought it was important to get that full range of that part of the discussion, right? I mean, he was talking about a lot there, but I think the biggest thing was, you should be more regular, right? I mean, and look, it's I know it's strange to talk about it, but as he said, if you're not moving your bowels, you're full of shit, and that's waste. Right? When he said that, it caught me off guard, but it's true. I mean, that's waste that is still in your body, and as he mentioned, your body still will move it out somehow, some way, or try to. So it'll come out through your pores, it'll come out through your openings, right? So ideally you push it through your body immediately. Once you've finished and you've gotten all the nutrients out of the food that you can get, ideally it's being pushed through. And so, as you mentioned, laxatives are a temporary solution. Unfortunately, we didn't even get to Ozempic. I wanted to talk about that, but we got to a full hour. We didn't really get a chance to get into that. But yeah, I mean, the gut health thing I thought was interesting. I think his practice mostly focuses on gut health and how that can impact your overall health. Any thoughts on this particular topic? This being full of shit, as he said. Any thoughts on that in particular?
I mean, I agree because if you're just eating stuff, you're consuming things inside of you and you're not letting it out, it is gonna be considered shit. It's it's the hard truth.
Yes.
It's just gonna be considered shit because
Yeah.
you're not able to let it out of your body because it's not supposed to come in to stay in. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, and guys, think about this, right? If you've ever done a juice cleanse, like a real hardcore juice cleanse that has a lot of spinach, what you'll notice is that after every after every meal, whatever it is, the juice or whatever it is, you'll have a movement, right? And generally it should be at least once or twice a day, depending on how you eat. I'm not gonna talk about my own personal habits, but I think everybody has their own. And if you start to see it, you should pay attention to them. Basically, you should be, just mentally clocking how often you're going. And if you're a person that's a once a week, once every 4 or 5 days, it's probably an issue. One of the things that I like that Troy said, though, is when somebody asked a specific question, he said, check with your primary care physician, your PCP. So although he's a doctor and does holistic health and I think it was like alternative medicines, if I'm not mistaken, I don't
Yeah.
want to miscategorize what he does.
No, you're
But
right.
he still considers the fact that there are still needs for traditional medicine, which I think is important. But of course, you want to consult all of your medical professionals in your life, and you should have many different ones depending on who you are and what your personal ailments might be. All right, so that was gut health. There's one more clip on food, seed, and not to eat. Um, but da, 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 da. Yeah, so let's get into the last one on foods to eat and foods not to eat. This is about a 5 minute clip or so. We may not play the full clip, but I do want to get to this, and we'll give some commentary on the other side. To eat and not to eat.
Fruits
Just a
are good.
couple.
Fruits are
Okay.
good for us. So stick with the fruits. Vegetables are good too, but it depends on what type of vegetables. So
Mm,
too much cassava, too many. Cassava's all right, but like remember, I was talking about this with someone else. Cassava is used as a ingredient in certain glues and things. So just understand how much you're eating of stuff. It doesn't mean you don't eat it. It just means don't overconsume.
mhm,
Um, Processed foods, we all kind of struggle with it because it's readily available and it's easy. Being that if you're vegan, if you're vegetarian, and even if you're just someone who's just cautious, it's everywhere. So try to stay as far from processed foods as possible and try to make as much food as you can and go to the source.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Do you have another question? Because I have one
No.
more.
That was I'm leaving it at that. I'm leaving it at that.
Okay. Do you recommend halal spots?
Halal is good, but once again, that's just how the if I'm not mistaken, that's just really how the beef and the chicken and the goat are prepared when they're cutting it and when they're raising them and stuff like that. It is a butcher, and that is closest to the source. If that is really the closest way you can get to the source, and that is the closest way you can get to the
Got
source. When I was
it.
talking about going to the source, I'm talking about to the farm.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna read a few more comments before we let you go. Once again, thank you, Troy, for joining us. Thank you guys in the comment section that have been engaging. We really appreciate it. We are grateful for you guys. Some
Yes,
Iomida?
Matu. Yes, Matu, that as well. They are preying on it. That's why it's called halal. Yes.
Iomida says, wow, very encouraged
Oh, now the questions are coming
with
in.
Yeah, like
hearing
crazy.
I can somebody
So that was the end of the live stream, and all the questions started coming in like right at the end. So I think like overall, I thought it was really informative and really helpful to kind of hear things that I kind of already know, but I think it's important for the rest of our folks to know this. From time to time, we'll do conversations like this from people that are professionals in their field, and they can talk a little bit about some of the things that are ailing our community, right? Things that people have questions on and they want to know the answers to. I don't know how many people will tell me that, when I bid salon, I'm not even gonna do it in Creole, but when they were in Sierra Leone, they were smaller. When they got to the U.S., they grew, and unintentional, right? And so I've heard so many people say like, "Oh, you're eating well when you go to America, right?" You know. So these are all things that I think we want to take into consideration. We'll have conversations like this more and more. Um, I think I'll just leave it at that. I mean, we wanted to make sure you guys heard from a professional on this, and I'm glad that Troy was able to kind of give us his insights. His Instagram is at Troy dot Massa, Massa, right? So that's his IG. You could check him out. And then on his page, he has a couple of links and stuff that you can look at if you want to follow up with Troy. Any final words from you, Admire, before we go?
um no, honestly, I agree with you as well. Every week we're going to be coming live to talk about these different topics in the community and tune in, follow the people that are sharing information because even Troy, we asked him how we can support him, follow him, support him. He services people outside of the DMV area, although he has a physical location in the DMV area. So if you don't live in Maryland, Virginia, DC, that's okay. He will definitely be able to virtually help you out. Follow him, support him, and book with him consultation, whatever it is that you're going through. But I definitely agree with you and what you said earlier. That's it for me.
Okay. So I think that is all great information and insights. And then, listen, we gotta jump. It's late. So I want to say thank you to everybody who watched. This is always a great experience to be able to get on here and to talk about the things that are happening in our community. I will say yes. Yeah, so we'll be back next. We'll be back next Sunday to go live, and then I go live tomorrow on my own personal channel. I have no idea what I'm talking about yet, but check it out. We got a lot to talk about. It'll always be something informative and helpful. If you have any questions about what's happening on the continent. And with that, guys, I want to say thanks for watching. We will see you all on the next live stream next week. Bye, guys.